doing that whole thing on mute. That's really peak. Guys, was I doing that whole thing on mute? I'll probably have to start that bit again. But anyway, yeah, just saying that kind of season's done now. Apologies, guys. Yeah, I've just basically done a whole intro on mute. Yes, big up everyone, guys. Make sure you smash the likes on the stream, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and get involved in the chat as always, people. I was just saying that obviously last night, Chelsea dumped out the Champions League by Real Madrid, losing 2-0, 4-0 over both legs. It was very straightforward for Madrid, in all honesty. Yes, we put up a little bit of a fight in the first half, had two really good chances through Kante and Cucurella. We couldn't take them, story of our season. And then in the second half, Madrid's quality just told them we just got torn apart for both goals. Obviously, Trevor Chalobah massively at fault for that first one, coming steaming out for no reason whatsoever, completely missing the tackle and basically leaving a free goal. And the second goal, just load of space in the net, and they just in the box, and they just walked it into the goal like they were playing FIFA. Not great. No Champions League games now for my guess, at least minimum 2025. Lampard's lost every single game in charge so far, all four. I'm not sure when the last time was that we lost 4 games in a row. We've lost 4 games in a row for the first time in fuck knows how long. Final nail in a really, really shit season for us was hammered in last night. We've got 7 games left in the league. We've got Brentford up next on Wednesday night, so a week today. Hopefully plenty of time to do some sort of stuff on the training ground, get a few patterns of play together, try and get a bit of team chemistry or just something going. Really not the best. But guys, we've got plenty to get into in tonight's stream. Obviously, we're going to be going back over the player ratings from last night, talking about Lampard, his tactics. Was it right? Was it wrong? A bit of an update on the new manager search, and of course, plans for the summer with the predicted fire sale being reported, and of course, all the other news. Thiago Silva's comments as well after the game from last night. So there's plenty to get into, people. But as I said, smash the likes on the stream. Keep subscribing to the channel. Almost at 3,000 subscribers now. So every new subscriber helps. So please do hit that subscribe button. And let's get those likes up as well, guys. But let's kick things off then with... Let's go with the news that's kind of the latest news from Matt Law. Coming today in an article, Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley are set to be in charge of a summer clear-out. Chelsea need to get rid of up to 10 players before the next manager starts work. And I think for a lot of Chelsea fans, that's music to everyone's ears. The squad is far too big. It's been referenced several times in an article by The Athletic. Thiago Silva's comments after the game last night, that to extend the size of the change room because there's so many players. Having 30 plus players in the squad is not conditional to building a good team, and it's not optimal working environment either for a manager. You look at a team and you want like a core group of say 15, 16 that are going to be the same. They're going to be the same every week, and that just isn't the case at Chelsea. We've got double the size of that, and there's no surprises that we need to get rid of so many players. A mass clear out is needed. We do need to raise 100 million by the end of June through player sales to comply with FFP, if reports are to be believed on that one. We won't have a problem raising 100 million. There's a lot of sellable assets within the squad, and obviously, yes, whilst we're not going to get as much money as we pay for these guys, we're not going to get as good a fee as we perhaps would like to get. The reality of the situation is that we do need to get rid of a number of players, a mass clear out. We need to get rid of the people that don't want to be here. We need to get rid of the guys that are bad characters. And if you don't want to sign a new contract at Chelsea and you've got 2 years left on your contract come this summer, see you later. We've got to start operating and acting like a ruthless football club instead of just, letting people stay and see their deals out. We've got to take these big decisions. So it's great to hear that Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley are going to be in charge of this clear out, getting rid of players that need to be gotten rid of. Obviously, the new manager, whoever that ends up being, will obviously have a say as well. I think there's certain players, regardless of the manager, that need to leave and will leave. But then it's also going to be down to the discretion of the new manager as well. And it's always a slight worry of mine when a new manager comes in, that players that we know need to leave as fans, maybe a new manager actually fancies them and thinks, I might like to keep them around the place. I mean, that is a possibility of happening, of course. But yeah, this is really important, and it's great now that the footballing structure is in place, the footballing people are there, and they can now deal with the situation that we're in. Obviously, eight additions in January hasn't helped proceedings at all. It hasn't helped with the situation of the squad size and trying to manage a team and manage a cohesive unit. You know, you hear reports of at training, you've got an 11 versus 11 game on one pitch, you've got a 9 versus 9 on the other pitch. It's just madness, the size of the squad. And that's what, 8 additions in January will do to you on top of an already oversized squad. So the fact that, we're clearing out this squad, which has been long overdue, by the way, long overdue. I mean, we've been talking about a squad clear out for years. Yes, we've now brought a lot of players in. More players do need to come in, by the way. But, I mean, I could list 10 players off the top of my head now that need to leave, in my opinion. Havertz, Pulisic, it's like we're sort of expanding it's like building an extension on your house because you've had a few more kids to the family. It's mad that we've had to build bigger dressing room to accommodate the squad. I just don't it's. Yeah, I mean, I swear you don't hear about this at any other club, or this just wouldn't happen at any other club. It's mad, but I can look at it and I just think, for me personally, I'd be getting rid of Havertz, Loftus-Cheek, Gallagher, Ziyech, Pulisic, Chalobah. That's 7. We've still got the likes of Bakayoko and Baba Rahman on the book still, which is an utter madness. They need to go. I'm trying to think who else. Obviously, Aubameyang needs to go as well. Yeah, there's a load just there. Mate, Chilwell's not going anywhere, by the way. Chilwell, I think, is a top player. He's just on a new 2-year contract. He's part of the future plans. Mount is part of the plans. Whether he's going to be a regular starter or not is another conversation, but he can certainly be a very important squad player for us, that's for sure. I would be keeping him around the place, but I do agree with Ruben, Trev, Pulisic, Ziyech. I personally wouldn't have an issue with Sterling leaving, but there's no way Sterling's going to be leaving after 1 year and with the money that he's on as well. He's not going to get that anywhere else. So we might have shoehorned ourselves into a bit of a difficult situation by signing Sterling on that massive money, because no one else is going to pay that money. Is going to pay that money for him. So, oh yeah, of course we can add Aspie to that list as well. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. Yep, Zakaria will obviously leave as well. The lone guys. Yeah. Plus, we've already got, before we even get to selling the players, we've already got 3 guaranteed new arrivals for next season anyway, because Gusto is going to be coming in, as is Nkunku, and then Levi Colwell is also returning from his loan spell. So there's another 3 bodies through the door on top of what we've already got. So yeah, Chelsea are going to be, a lot of clubs are going to be coming to do business with Chelsea. That's for sure. What about? I'll be totally honest. I'm not so sure. What I would say is that if we deal with the positions that we need to deal with within the squad, in terms of getting ourselves a goalkeeper, a holding midfield player, and a striker, once we've addressed those 3 areas, only then should we be considering making a luxury purchase like Felix. But purchasing Felix should not be at the top of our priorities. It should be the situation. It should be a luxury addition once we've addressed what needs to be done. What business needs to be done. There's no point signing Felix when we haven't addressed the priority areas that need to be addressed. So that's where I stand on it. Yes, I'm happy for him to stay, but only if it means once we conclude the business that we need to do, and not at the expense of that. Gallagher, I don't think Gallagher will stay. Yes, he'd be an important squad player, and I'd almost rather say that I'd rather Ruben go than Gallagher if it was between the 2 of them. But at the same time, what we have to understand is that Gallagher is a saleable asset. Everton bid 45 million pounds from him in January. He's playing semi-regularly for the club now. I think we could probably get about 40 million pounds for him again, which is going to be a lot more than we get for Ruben. So in terms of financials, Gallagher makes sense to sell, but in terms of the squad, I agree. If it was between Ruben or Gallagher, I'd be keeping Gallagher, and that's just I love Ruben, but that's the reality of the situation. Under a new manager, Sterling could do well. He could do well, but the system's got to be set up to suit him, and he's not that guy in terms of quality that we should be looking to build a team around. In my opinion, it's just that just shouldn't be. He's just not good enough for that, and he's demonstrated. He said he wanted to come here to be the main man, and he's been nothing but a side man. He's been terrible for us, and he's not the only one. But when you say you're leaving the club and you come to join Chelsea to be the main man, you can't put in that level of performance. And of course, you can, circumstances are different. He thought he would have been playing under Tuchel for much longer and whatnot. He was obviously a key driver behind that deal and things. But, Sterling's not put the performances on the pitch to warrant, being here next season. But of course, he will be here next season. But yeah, let's see on Sterling. But he could do well under a new manager. But I'm just not. I was never that convinced on him when he first came, because I think he was very in an elite system and an elite setup at Manchester City, great. But at Chelsea, which is neither of those things at this point in time, all his deficiencies are massively exposed, and we're seeing that he's not actually as good as we thought he was. In my opinion, one of Kepa or Mendy will need to go as well. Yeah, agreed. One of those two will definitely go, and I would sell Cover as well. I don't think I personally wouldn't be keeping Cover. I'd be selling him. Not because he's not good enough, but I just think, his new contract expires in 24, going into the last year of his deal next summer, in the summer. Doesn't look like he wants to hang about. Maybe a new challenge for him. And I think you could get some half decent money for him as well. My striker target, for me, Ivan Toney would be my number one preference. I think he just ticks all the boxes for Chelsea. I like him. He's a great goal scorer, all sorts of goals, left foot, right foot, head, good at penalties. Bit of a physical presence. He does know the league, and I know that's not a massive, that's not the be all and end all, because you see players like Sterling who know the league and have struggled. But Premier League experience, is a plus. It's not essential, but it's definitely a plus. And I just think he's a sort of profile that has worked at Chelsea in the past, like with Drogba, like with Costa, in terms of physical profile. I just think he'd be perfect for us. So yeah, that would definitely be my choice. Yeah, I am as well. Might have to just fire up some reruns of 2012 and 2021 to make me feel better whilst we're not playing Champions League. Yeah, I mean, this Gavi stuff, of course, loads of clubs are going to be linked to Gavi because of the situation, the financial situation surrounding his contract, and the fact it's not been registered. And then if that doesn't get approved, then he essentially could be available as a free agent. So obviously clubs would be stupid not to be across that, but the chances of Gavi leaving, I think, are very, very minimal in all honesty. Yeah, mate, this is the thing. I'm seeing a lot of people. I love Ivan Toney. I think he's a top player. But I'm seeing a lot of people sort of maybe not on board with it because it's not a quote-unquote big name. But every time we've gone for a big name centre forward and spent massive money, it's been an absolute flop. So I think we need to stay away from that. I mean, another player slightly outside the box, not really a centre forward, but can obviously play at centre forward. I really like Kolo Muani at Frankfurt as well. I think he's a great young player. I think he's a really top player. And I think someone that could do well at Chelsea as well. But he's not an out-and-out centre-forward. Again, another one of those that is versatile across the front line. But I think he's a good player. I like Tony would be my choice. Kolo Muani would be up on the list as well. I'm not hating on Osimhen. I think he's a phenomenal player. But at the same time, he's going to cost in excess of £100 million. We can't continue spending money at the rate we are spending it, window in, window out. We have to obviously control the spending at some point. I just feel like if you're looking at 120 million euros or whatever on Osimhen, I just think we can maybe spend 60, 70 million quid on Tony, and then we've still got a lot of money to spend on other areas of the squad that need addressing. I just think it would be I think it's a big risk to spend that much money on one player so far. So yeah, I wouldn't be against Osimhen coming. Of course, it'd be the glamorous, it'll be a big signing, it's exciting and stuff. But history dictates to us at Chelsea that actually, do you know what? Big money strikers don't tend to work out. And if we haven't got the team sorted and the system sorted around the pieces, then we don't. What's the point in bringing a centre forward into a team that's not functioning? We're just going to have another player at the top of the pitch that isn't functioning. Everything else needs to be functioning. We need to get ourselves as a functioning unit rather than just chucking a load of pieces at it and hoping it will come together. We've actually got to have some sort of method behind it. The answer is not to constantly throw money at everything. Yes, we need investment. Yes, we need to buy more players. We also need to coach and improve the players that we've got and improve what we've got. Because let's be real, look, we're doing shit right now. We're so bad. But if you just look at it as quality of players, we've got some very, very good footballers. But for whatever reason, it's not coming together as a team, and the management and the coaching staff, whoever that is not able to get the best out of this bunch right now. So those are things that I think, yes, the investment is massively important, but arguably those two things are more important, is that we improve what we've got and that we can that we can find the manager that's capable of doing that, because it's been a while now since we've had a manager that's actually shown that they're capable of improving what we have. Do you think it's better? Do we start Aspilicueta than No. I don't think anyone. It's easy to look back after the event and go, "Oh, Trevor Chalobah shouldn't have started because of the mistakes that he made." Like no Chelsea fan would have been saying, "Oh, Aspilicueta needs to start this game." He's not played since he got kicked in the face against Southampton. And on a night like this, he just wouldn't be good enough. Yes, you could argue, or maybe his experience would have been useful, but I don't think anyone had any issue, certainly not myself, with playing Chalobah at right back last night. No issues at all with that. A lot of other issues with the lineup, but no issue with playing Chalobah in the back three. None at all. Yeah, agreed on that. Said as much after the game. No, it doesn't look like Enrique is going to be the next manager. We'll get to that in a sec. Also, Tony more than likely bad. I would sign him as well, but I think that's part of the reason why teams are put off going for him in January or inquiring or trying to do something in January, is because of this potential ban that's looming over him. I don't know why it's taking so long. It seems clear that they've got sufficient evidence, 200 odd betting charges against him. So I don't know why it's taking so long to come to any sort of decision. And they need to come, in my opinion, they've got to come to a decision before the end of the season, because any potential suitors, and there will be a number of suitors in Ivan Toney's signature, they're going to want to have clarity on the situation. You don't want to spend 60 odd million quid, which I think it would probably cost maybe a bit more to get Toney out of Brentford, to then discover that once you've signed him, oh, by the way, he then can't play for 6 months. This needs to be cleared up as soon as possible, and preferably by the end of the season, because you start going into the market and it's going to put clubs off not knowing whether he's going to be available or not. So that needs to be dealt with big time. We need more than one, really, don't we? We need two strikers that give you different horses for courses. I think one thing we need to remember is that Broja is going to be back next season as well. I'm not saying that's the ultimate answer, but he is a good alternative, a good plan B. We've got Nkunku coming in, who can play there as an alternative option. Yes, his preferred position would be as a 10 or a second striker, but in certain instances he could obviously play as that main 9. So I think with Nkunku coming in, with Broja back next season as well, I think one's all we need in order to play. It needs to be a clinical one. It needs to be a top player like a Tony, like an Osimhen, like a Kolo Muani, a Vlahovic, for example, and any sort of kind of names like that. In regards to not throwing money all the time, the new manager needs to stand back, look at the situation, and find the striker to fit the other players. Yeah, agreed, for sure. There's no point just signing a striker that doesn't fit what we're looking to do because we need a striker. We need to sign someone that fits the system we're looking to play, fits the way the new manager wants to play, and complements the existing players that we've got. And if that means that we have to sign a quote-unquote lesser name, then so be it. If a lesser name is going to suit us much better, then that's what we need to go for. We just need to move away from this kind of shiny object syndrome. Oh, what's the flavour of the month? Osimhen, or let's go for him. We need to actually have a bit more thought process behind what we're doing, and not just go for the big names and the shiny objects. Well, that doesn't always work out, as history has shown us at Chelsea. Can you tell me why we bought Kai Havertz? As far as I'm concerned, I think Kai Havertz was a Roman signing. And the only reason we got him was because we had a bit more financial power during the COVID times. Otherwise, I do think he would have gone to Real Madrid, and he probably would have done very, very well there. Clearly, what I would say, Kai Havertz is not a shit footballer. As much as we slate him and we say these things, he's not a bad footballer. The issue is that I don't think he's suited to the Premier League. That's the biggest thing. He's not suited to the Premier League in my opinion. So we can't really find a position for him. He's one of those players that is versatile, but then his versatility actually is detrimental in the end, because he ends up playing various different positions pretty much every game, and he can never really got time to kind of excel at one. So yeah, that would look. I would sell him. It does look a bit of a waste of money right now because we've just not had that consistency on the basis that's required. But yeah, let's let's see what happens in the summer with him. The new manager comes in. If it's Nagelsmann, maybe he can get a bit more out of him potentially. But how many times we said it was Havertz with the new manager coming in? Tuchel was meant to get more out of him. He didn't. Potter didn't really get much out of him apart from a bit of a purple patch in March. Lampard's not getting anything out of him. Would a Nagelsmann get much out of him? I really don't know. By the way, guys, let's keep getting these likes up. We're only on 10 likes, people. We can do a lot better than that. Let's get this to at least 20 likes, guys. So if you're tuning in now and you're not watching, so if you're not smashed a like, then make sure you smash a like on this stream, guys. Let's get the likes up to 20, guys. Get those likes going. So smash the like, people. Really helps me out. And it boosts the stream as well, gets it to more people, and it's quick and easy. So let's get those likes up to 20, guys. You can do this. Great stuff. Okay. Let's have a look. Cool. Yeah, we got Dacho Fofana as well. I suspect he'll go out on loan. Cucurella is the worst back I've ever seen at Chelsea. No football IQ. I think that's a little bit harsh. I think Cucurella is a good player, but again, another player that suffered with obviously a move, some personal issues towards the beginning of his Chelsea career, kind of being in and out the side, playing various different positions, playing left of a 3, playing left back and a 4, playing left wing back. Like that continuity really doesn't help. And yeah, look, I think it is affecting his performances on the pitch. And yes, it's not been the best of starts to his Chelsea career, but I still think Cucurella can be a good player for Chelsea. It's just not been the best season for him so far, and that's the reality of the situation. Yeah, I like the look of what I've seen of Fofana, so I don't understand why Ricardo. We saw him in the second half against Man City in the FA Cup. We got hammered 4-0, and then we saw him come on against Fulham at home when Enzo made his debut back on a Friday Night Football a few months ago. And then we haven't seen him since. And I really don't understand that. This is the one thing that now that the season's done, we've got nothing to play for. This needs to be used as an opportunity, these 7 games, to play players that, are going to be here next season and are actually going to be part of the plans going forward. I don't want to see any minutes from any players that don't want to be here next season or aren't part of the plans going forward. They should not be playing. They should not be in the squad. So it's inexcusable to not see the likes of Chukwuemeka, Madueke, Lewis Hall, Datro Fofana. These guys making matchday squads and getting minutes. Mudryk starting most games. These things have to happen. It's absolutely criminal if those things do not happen, because these guys are the future. They've only just come. They want to be here. They're part of the plans. We've got nothing to play for. This is an opportunity. These guys have to play. They simply have to play. It's as simple as that. No excuses not to. Yeah, Pulisic and Cho. Yeah, I've forgotten about Callum completely on loan at Leverkusen in the Bundesliga this season. I don't think he's done any great shakes there. And unfortunately, he's still only 22, so young. But I think Chelsea will cut ties with him. I don't know where he'll go, but they will. Yes, Deals, big up, bro. Do you think our new manager needs to watch us before the season ends? I imagine the new manager is already watching Chelsea at the moment, for sure. They wouldn't have not watched Chelsea. Nagelsmann, who's linked with the job, of course, he would have been watching Chelsea recently, for sure. Can't for the life of me understand that him not getting minutes. Do you mean Mudryk? Do you mean Fofana? Do you mean Madueke? That could apply to a number of players. But yeah, let's move on to the new manager situation now, because there's I mean, I say updates. It's a bit more information that's been kind of drip fed in. Let's start with the first thing that Julian. First of all, that according to Fabrizio Romano, to Matt Law, Chelsea have no further talks planned with Enrique, despite him flying to London 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I don't understand why Dacho Fofana is not getting any minutes either. He should be in the squad minimum and getting some bench minutes at least. I don't believe Mount would want to be a squad player, hence why he'll leave. No, I think Mount is happy to be a squad player, and then through opportunities that he gets given from the bench or to start in cup games or whatever it is, then earn the right to become a starter again. I think Mount wants to stay at Chelsea, but he wants to stay on terms where he feels valued. And I think obviously in the summer, if he stays or if he goes, then I would obviously wish him all the best. I think it would be a mistake to let him go. I think he offers a lot and he's very valuable to the squad and can be an important player for the club. And we've seen his quality. We know what quality he's got, and he's having a very bad season. But every footballer goes through a bad season. So let's see what happens in the summer. But I do think it would be a massive mistake if we let him go. That's for sure. So basically, obviously, Chelsea, according to Matt Law, I've held no further talks. We've got no further talks planned with Luis Enrique, despite him flying to London 2 weeks ago to kind of give his presentations and whatnot. So it looks like, I mean, they've got no further talks planned. So it looks like they're not entirely convinced on Enrique. And I know that a lot of the fan base want to get Enrique in. I can understand why. He wouldn't be my preference. I've said many times on the show that he wouldn't be my preference for reasons. You know, he's not managed any club football for 6 years. We're looking at a reference point of Barcelona and winning the treble with them, which is a phenomenal achievement. I'm not shitting on that by any means, but what I would say is that that's a very specific set of circumstances with an absolutely ridiculous team that I think most managers would win something with. Yes, of course, he took that Pep side and he evolved it, and you could argue that he made it better in certain aspects, of course, and that's great. But I think you just got to take it a little bit of a pinch of salt of a manager's achievements with that Barcelona side, one of the greatest football teams of all time. You're then going back to Roma and Celta Vigo, and this is a number of years ago now. So, and people say, why are you going back so far? Because that's the references that we've got with him. I think with Spain, yes, he made the semi-finals of the Euros, but they were a very laboured side. They went to extra time and penalties, I think, in all the knockout games in that Euros, and then they were atrocious in the World Cup. So, I'm not entirely convinced on Enrique, but look, there's pros and cons to every manager, but it does look like that Enrique, it would seem that Enrique is not going to get the Chelsea job, but that of course isn't official. It's just from the reports that have been coming out, it would look like that Enrique isn't getting the job. But again, that could be different, you know, it could be different, but as of yet, no further talks are planned with Luis Enrique. Yeah, for sure, but I look at PSG and I think that's more a mentality thing, maybe a quality of manager, particularly in Poch. You know, one of the worst PSG managers they've had. Tuchel got very, very close. I just think PSG is a mentality issue, though, within that squad, within that group of players. I think it's one of the most difficult dressing rooms to manage in world football. I mean, I think the Chelsea dressing room is bad. I think that I can imagine the PSG dressing room is awful. In pre-season, what do you want to see the new gaffer try to do? Because I feel that, like, our young players, we will have huge parts or role in to get their chance to show a new manager. Yeah, pre-season is going to be massive. You could almost argue that all the issues for the season that we're having right now stemmed from pre-season. Like, pre-season was in essence an absolute disaster from start to finish, and that set the wheels in motion for a really shit season. Obviously, it's not an excuse. You can't just be like, "Oh, I had a shit pre-season, so therefore the season's going to be shit and it's going to go the way it's gone," like we're experiencing. But you know, I do think that having that poor pre-season has massively contributed to us not doing well. It definitely hasn't lent itself to having a good season. I think that's a fair thing to say. So I think with a new manager needs a clear idea of identity, a clear idea of how he wants to play, a clear idea of what players he wants to bring in, and a clear idea of the system he wants to use, the tactics, and the personnel that he wants to use within this Chelsea squad. And I think it's got to be a massive emphasis on developing younger players and improving what we've got. Because let's be real, we've got a squad that any manager would love to work with in terms of the core squad. And I don't mean this 30-man squad now. No manager wants to work with a 30-man squad, but I mean like the younger players that we've got and the experienced pros that are there. Like any manager would want to work with the likes of Enzo, players like Mudryk, Madueke, you know, young players with potential to be one of the best in their position in Europe going forward over the next years. So we cannot afford to waste the talent that we've got at our disposal. So this new manager needs to come in, clear identity, clear idea of what he wants to do, clear idea of how he wants to play, have some sort of tactical flexibility as well, and a clear track record of improving younger players. That's massive as well. That really is huge as well. So that's what I would like to see. Enrique doesn't get the credit he gets. He would have. Look, I'm not saying that Enrique would have done a bad job at Chelsea. It just wouldn't be my preference for the reasons that I've stated. But of course, you know, the footballing department's in place. The likes of your Lawrence Stewarts, your Win Stanleys, your Vivels, etc. If they were to decide that Enrique was the right guy, I'd back it and I'd get on board with it, of course. But it wouldn't be my personal choice. But I trust the footballing people, the best in class in their positions, to make the right decision. And if they feel they're not entirely convinced on Enrique, then I trust that judgment. If they feel that Nagelsmann better suits the quote-unquote project and the direction that they're looking to take the club in, then I back that and I'll support it. That's where I'm at with it. We really do not need to waste these last few games of the season. In an ideal world, we'd have the new manager in place now. A few practice games, yeah, it would be. But we're not operating in an ideal world, unfortunately. You know, Lampard's in for the rest of the season whilst they conduct the new manager search. I think it's clear they want to take their time with it, which is rightly so, given the magnitude of the decisions that they've got wrong recently. Plus, also the fact that Plus, also the fact that. You know, I don't think the preferred candidate would want to take over with this run-in, and who can blame them? You know, the squad's in an absolute mess. Why is a new manager going to be parachuted into a mess, get dumped out of the Champions League, 30-man squad to manage? You want to take your time. You want to assess if it's the right thing for you to do, and then move forward, start afresh in the summer. So I don't blame it at all. Yeah, I would agree. Christopher Fella's done work with Nagelsmann before. Lawrence Stewart has also worked within the Red Bull setup before. So there's a lot of admiration from within the footballing structure at Chelsea for Nagelsmann. He's done it with young players before as well. And he's got a system. Nagelsmann ticks the most boxes. I think that's the thing. So, yeah, I think that's fair. So let me move on to a little bit of stuff about Nagelsmann now. So again, what we already know, again, Fabrizio kind of just reaffirming this, that Julian Nagelsmann is favourite since the day one, but it's on the owners. Let's see how conversations go in the next days with Nagelsmann and other candidates. Other candidates believed to be Pochettino as well. What have we got here? Chelsea have already held talks with Nagelsmann. Yeah, they held talks with him last Thursday. Those were the first in-person talks conducted by Win Stanley and Lawrence Stewart, I believe, or it could have been Vivell, or might have been all three of them. And I think more rounds of talks are scheduled to take place, but I think that first round of talks are promising. I think what's left to do now is that Nagelsmann needs to present his ideas. So whether that's the PowerPoint presentation, whatever way they convey their ideas across, that does need to happen. Yeah, Steinberg always does this, tweets about FFP. Chelsea do need to raise 100 million to comply with FFP, I think, but by the end of June. So that's why you're hearing reports of a quote-unquote fire sale to raise these funds. But yeah, look, Bowley and co might have made got things wrong for sure, but they're not stupid. They know their numbers and they know business. They're not going to fall foul of FFP. They're not stupid in that sense for sure. I think people who say Nagelsmann red flag because of his age, it is a lazy comment. At the end of the day, if you're experienced and if you're good enough, Nagelsmann's got 7 years of coaching experience at the top level. He's been at Hoffenheim, he's been at Leipzig, he's been at Bayern Munich. Age is not important in this conversation for me. What's important is you're the right guy and you tick the boxes and you've got relevant experience. Nagelsmann ticks all those boxes for me. How Poch isn't... No, Enrique was on the candidate list. He just looks like he's not going to be the preferred choice. Enrique's been on the shortlist. They've met him in person. They've spoken to him. So he's not on the shortlist. Poch, again, I think they're going to hold talks with Poch and whatnot. But I would be very surprised if they ended up going with Poch. This whole process has pointed to Nagelsmann really since day one. So I agree. I would be shocked if Nagelsmann wasn't announced as the Chelsea manager. But of course, I would get behind whoever it is. What are your thoughts on Joao Felix situation? I don't know if he'll stay or not. I'd like him. I've got no issue with him staying. But as I said earlier in the stream, you cannot sign Joao Felix on a permanent basis if we haven't before addressing the areas that need addressing. So you cannot sign Felix permanently if we haven't addressed a goalkeeper, a holding midfield player, and a striker. Only once those positions are addressed can we then entertain a thought of signing Felix permanently. In my opinion, yeah, he has. He qualified for Champions League with Hoffenheim in his first job. He took Leipzig to the German Cup, runners up in the Bundesliga, Champions League football with Leipzig. He turned Timo Werner into a top player at a phenomenal. Timo Werner had his best season at Leipzig under Nagelsmann. Really developed him there. Got his move to Chelsea off the back of that. He's on the Bundesliga with Bayern. He's won a German Cup with Leipzig. As I said, he won 8 out of 8 matches in the Champions League this season. The guy's got credentials. He's got credentials. So I think he ticks all the boxes. I really do. What's thoughts on owners going in the dressing room? No problem for me. No problem for me at all. You know, Roman used to do it a lot, and it happens at other clubs as well. It does. It just for some reason seems to be publicised at Chelsea more than not. Not really too sure why that is. No problem with that at all. They own the club. It's their prerogative to do what they like. If they want to go in afterwards and demand what's going on, they spent millions of pounds and they want to find out why things aren't operating or why players aren't performing or showcasing the best of their capabilities. Absolutely no issue with it whatsoever. You know, Lampard said it's not an issue. Ancelotti said that he wouldn't have an issue with it. Like, it really isn't a big deal. Like, if the team's underperforming, then not, you know, it's not like you want to go in as an owner, you want to find out what's going on. So I haven't got an issue with it at all. What are your thoughts on Mudryk? Yeah, I think he will. I think he's someone who's raw. He's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of talent. You can see that he's got the ability to be a top player. He just needs consistency. He just needs coaching. And I think there's a top player there. And I really do think he can go on to be a great success at Chelsea. I do like what I've seen of Mudryk. I really do. Do you remember when we did hear Todd wanted an ex-player, a legend part of the board? Maybe. Could be Lampard. Lampard's not going to have any future coaching role at Chelsea. I think Lampard would be great in an advisory role or in a board role or whatever it is, as an ambassadorial role. But yeah, no problem with bringing people back into roles that know the club. I think that massively helps and would be a smart thing to do. I don't understand what you mean, mate. Chelsea quick back sign summer. What does that mean? I don't really know what that means. But yeah, it looks like it's gonna be pointing to Nagelsmann. By the way, guys, let's get these likes up. 3 more to go to that 20 mark, people. So let's get there now, guys. Last 3 likes to get us to 20. So keep smashing the likes. If you haven't smashed a like on the stream and you're tuning in now, please do hit that like button. It does really help me out. So let's get to that 20 likes, guys. It doesn't take seconds and it doesn't cost any money at all. Let's get it up to 20 likes. 3 to go, guys. So smash the like if you haven't done so already, guys, and also subscribe to the channel. On the road to 3,000 subscribers. About 200 to go now. So every new subscriber really helps. And also, guys, if you've not checked out the match vlog from last night's game against Real Madrid, head over to the channel and also smash a like on there and check that video out. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be Nagelsmann. No further updates there. I'm hoping, like, now that we're out of the Champions League, we should start to see over the course of the next week or two things start to really gather pace in this managerial search now, because we haven't really got anything else to be focusing on. What we got to understand, we were in huge decline for the last 5 years. Yeah, exactly. This is what people don't realize. People just think we've suddenly got shit because Roman's left. We've been on the decline since 2017. The worst thing that we did was when we won the Champions League in 2021 to have such chronic underinvestment in the squad. To win the Champions League with that squad was an absolute miracle. It wasn't good enough, but we somehow managed to find a level under Tuchel where players elevated themselves to the levels they've never reached before and haven't reached since. And we took that as gospel that this squad was good enough to compete. When the reality was it wasn't. And all we did was added Lukaku and Saul when we needed so much more than that. So since then, the issues have been coming. But realistically, since we won the league, we've been on a downward spiral. You know, the recruitment's been so poor. We've been making way too many mistakes with recruitment in those years since then. So yeah, you know, we've been on a decline for 5 years. It's just this season, everything's culminating. All those short-term decisions over the last 5 years have kind of all hit us at once, and it's being realised in this season. And we've got to learn from that. We cannot keep making short-term decisions because they will come back and bite you in the arse, and it's come down on us like a ton of bricks this season. It really has. But yeah, that's kind of the latest on the managerial situation. What I wanted to get into though was Thiago Silva's comments after the game last night, and fair play to him, you know, world class on and off the pitch, a top leader, a top pro. And he was speaking afterwards, you know, everything he said was absolutely spot on. You know, he said it exactly how it is. He commands respect. And yes, people might disagree with him, but I think you'll be very hard pushed to find any Chelsea fan that disagrees with what he said. So let's get that up then. What Thiago Silva's been saying. Let's go through it. So after the game, he was saying that I think the first step, an incorrect step, has been made. We can't be blaming managers if we don't take responsibility. It's a hard period for the club with a lot of indecision. Change of ownership, new players arriving. We had to increase the size of the changing room because it didn't fit the squad. there are amazing players in the squad, but on the other hand, there are always players who are going to be unhappy. The manager can only pick 11 from 30 something. That's tough. Some can't make the squad. We signed 8 in January. We need to stop and put a strategy in place. Otherwise, we could make the same mistakes. Absolutely spot on with what he says, And as I touched on earlier, we can't just keep throwing money at the situation, We need to stop, put a clear strategy in place and work with that strategy. I think we've got a strategy in place in terms of we want to build a squad with a core group of players under the age of 25, built with some of the youngest players, some of the players with the best potential in Europe. But at the same time, we've got to realize that we've got to acknowledge that we've made mistakes. And for me, the important thing to acknowledge is that the mistakes have been made when there was no sporting structure in place, when there was no Vivell, when there was no Winstanley, no Lawrence Stewart, when it was Bowley making the majority of the big decision, when Bowley was interim sporting director. That's when the problems started occurring. Those are the bad decisions that have been made, is when Bowley was making those decisions when he was acting as sporting director. And I think that's an issue that we've sadly got, is that Bowley was making those mistakes. And that is a problem. It is a problem. So yeah, Thiago Silva absolutely spot on with what he says. We've got to find a strategy. We've got to learn our mistakes. Otherwise, we are in danger of making the same mistakes again. And we cannot afford to go into next season making more mistakes or having made mistakes in the summer. This summer is one of the most important in the club's history. I don't want to bang on about it as if like Chelsea are going to go out of business or something bollocks like that if we don't get this summer right. But this is a really, really crucial summer to set up next season and the coming seasons, And Silva's spot on with what he says. Absolutely spot on, We can't always be blaming the managers. And this is what annoys me with large sections of the fan base, is that the first thing they'll do is blame the manager when it is always a collective. The problem is never just the manager. As we're finding out, the problem runs deeper than the manager. The problems were deeper than Tuchel. Yes, Potter had to go, but the problems are deeper than Graham Potter, as is being demonstrated by the fact that we've lost the 4 games since he left, and we don't look any better than we were when we were under him. Arguably, you could say we look worse in certain aspects. So players have got to look at themselves, take responsibility like Silva's doing, and just understand why are the players not demanding more of themselves? Why can they not reach a level that is clearly within their capabilities? We wouldn't have spent this money on these players if they weren't good, or the data didn't show that they're good players. So we need to find out why these players aren't reaching their potential, and what can be done, to address that. Because right now we look worse than we did under Graham Potter. And I'm not saying I do believe, and I will stand by this, and I think that yes, he had to go, but to get rid of him with 10 games to go was utterly pointless. And yes, it was toxic, and yes, it wasn't great. But just because we've got Lampard in charge, like, people are kind of less toxic about it because he's a legend. But the reality is he's out of his depth. He's a clueless manager, and he's not good enough. But because he's a club legend, people seem to overlook that. And the football's been no better. It's been worse under him, making so many changes. We're switching the system every game. No wonder we can't find any continuity at all. Do you think Chelsea's problem is not having a better 9? Yes, that's part of the problem. We haven't got someone that can put the ball in the back of the net, but it's not the solution. It's not the only problem. We've got to find a way of coaching this side into a functioning, cohesive unit. There's no point just dropping a number 9 into the system now and thinking, oh, that's going to fix everything, because it's not. Because we're not good enough. 100%. Now we've got board members in place. Yeah, this is the thing. Now that we've got these guys in place, the best in class that know what they're doing, we should see better decisions being made, correct decisions being made, and we should see less shit decisions being made, because we've now got the footballing people in place and the footballing structure in place to make those better decisions. That's the thing. I think that's part of it, but also what I would say is that who else were we going to get in for 10 games? There was going to be no one. We had to get someone in that knew the club, that was available, and that had managed. There was we weren't going to get anyone else in at short notice with 10 games to go. Bruno wasn't going to stay for the rest of the season because he was part of the furniture with Graham Potter, so he was going to leave. So yeah, that's the reality of the situation. Is that Frank was the best of a worst situation. He knows the club. He can come in, try and steady the ship. The fans love him, and rightly so, because of what he's done as a player. So yeah, that's that's why it was the best solution in a difficult situation. Enrique is an older man with maturity and would be better suited to deal with the present. No, I don't think Nagelsmann's an AVB. Absolutely not. I would massively disagree with that. I can understand why you would make the comparison, but I think Nagelsmann's got a much better CV compared to AVB. Yes, AVB won the Europa League with Porto, Portuguese league and whatnot, but I think Nagelsmann's got more experience in terms of managing bigger dressing rooms, managing bigger egos and stuff. And I just think he'd tick more boxes. I can understand you maybe making that thing, but I don't think Nagelsmann will be an AVB. Enrique is older, but age is irrelevant for me. If you're the best for the role, I don't care if you're 20 or if you're 70. Just get me the right guy in for the job. Yeah, that is a madness. Like, I sometimes look back at it, you see on Sky and you see like the advert of Tuchel and Conte shaking hands. And I'm like thinking, that was this season. How mad is that? All that's happened this season. It is a madness. We've gone from Tuchel to Potter to Bruno to Lampard. I mean, yeah, it is an utter madness, Look, again, I think that's harsh as well. Look, they've made some mistakes and things aren't going well right now. They're not run Chelsea into the ground. Absolutely not. I totally disagree with that. They've not run Chelsea into the ground. Yes, they've made some bad decisions. They need to get their act together and start making the right decisions, but they have not run the club into the ground. The reason we're performing like this is not because of the owners. It's simple as that. Yeah, they've got things wrong. They've got big decisions wrong, but they're not responsible for the performances on the pitch. They're not the reason why we're playing like we are. I think it's important to remember that. Super Frank will always be a club legend as a player. Yeah, of course, always be a club. And I won't say a bad word about Lampard. I love the guy, but as a manager, he's just not it. Clueless, in my opinion. He really is. I wouldn't agree with that either. They're not yes men. I think Bowley and Co. like someone who's not divisive. And I think that's okay. If people want to brand that as yes men, I don't think they're yes men. They're not looking for someone to come in that's just going to agree with everything they do. The whole point of a democracy is that you can disagree with people and you can have honest conversations with people. So, yeah, I don't think that at all. What we got here? Lampard threw his toys at the pram. Yeah, a lot of them threw their toys at the pram with AVB. It was obviously ridiculous to be benching the likes of Ashley Cole and Lampard in that game in Naples. I don't know why that happened. I mean, even looking back at that whole situation was kind of a complete and utter madness. By the way, guys, we still haven't hit that 20 likes mark. So one more like, people. Get those likes up to 20, guys. And whilst we're at it, let's make sure we get these likes up to 30 before the stream is out. So, guys, keep smashing the likes, people. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it massively helps me out. I really appreciate each and every single one of you in the chat, each and every one of you that subscribes to the channel already, and every new subscriber as well. So please do hit the likes, guys. It really boosts the stream. It's easy and it massively helps me out. Let's get this to 30 likes, people. Let's first hit that 20 mark. We're still on 19, but let's get this to 30 likes if we can, guys. All right, let's do this. Yeah, agreed on that. Nagelsmann, took a German relegation side to the Champions League. Yeah, his work with Hoffenheim was superb, and he rightfully got the plaudits, and he rightfully then got the job at what do you call it? At Leipzig on the back of that. Yeah, I mean, it would have been like Chelsea, the gift that keep on giving. I don't know why Amazon haven't agreed to do a show with us. It would have been great with it would have been good with the sanctions last season. It would have been even better. It would have been even more phenomenal this season. So, yeah, I mean, maybe 1 year that will happen. No issue. There's not really a space for Mason in the starting lineup right now. And also, I think he's not fully fit yet to start either. So he's getting these minutes from the bench. And I think against Brentford, I would probably start another week's worth of full training to get back up to speed, work on that fitness. Yeah, I think that's fair. Nagelsmann, if the young players buy into his ways, could be good. Absolutely. No, I don't. No, I don't buy into that one bit, and particularly under Frank Lampard, who absolutely loves him. There's no way that he's not playing him because of the contract situation. Absolutely not. I don't believe that for 1 second. If Bowley messes up next manager, yeah, this has to be right. It has to be right. And what I would say is that owners will make mistakes. They will make mistakes when they first come in. You're not going to get everything right straight off the bat, particularly when you don't know a sport. You are going to get things wrong. But now that the structures are in place, We need to be seeing less of these shit decisions, and we need to be getting the bulk of these decisions right, starting with the new manager. Downfall was after sacking Tuchel, and the downfall had started a long time ago. This season, particularly, the downfall started in pre-season, but the downfall in general has been on its way since 2017, and that is the reality. That's the reality of the situation. It really is. But yeah, let me have a look if there's any news has happened, and then we will obviously move on to the player ratings from yesterday before around this one out, guys. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot. I don't think there's any new news, as it were. So yeah, let's move on to the player ratings. Let's get into that, guys. By the way, keep smashing the likes, keep subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. I know I've said it many times. I sound like a broken record, but it really helps me out, and I would massively appreciate it. Let's get into these player ratings then, people. Let's go. Get involved in the chat as well. Any other questions you've got, guys, fire them into the chat, and I will do my best to get to as many of them as possible. Which player would we get most money for in the summer? Apparently 10 players. Probably Conor Gallagher, I'd say we get the most money for. About 40 odd million. Maybe Kepa the same. I don't really know. When you have dumb owners want to get involved in the football. Look, there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that owners are picking lineups or owners are going to get involved in footballing decisions. That just isn't true. When you're going to try and get an old Chelsea player on your channel, I mean, I have had Eddie Newton on in the past, right back at the start. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Any preferences to anyone? Let me know, and I'll see what I can do. What did you make of Drogba's comments? I must be in them. I think what he says is right, because of course he's not going to recognise his club from when he was here, because it was totally different. But and what he says is absolutely spot on. But at the same time, I can also see the point of view that Roman's not at Chelsea anymore. Chelsea isn't what it used to be, and we're trying to build something new. And comments like that from legends aren't necessarily particularly helpful, as true as they may be. So that's my thoughts on them. There's no evidence at all that owners are picking lineups, by the way. So I mean, you can think that if you wish to do so, but that isn't the case. I give players chances, but Cinderella's been useless. No, that's utter nonsense, mate. They're not worse than the Glazers. Glazers aren't smart at all. Talking of running a club into the ground, that's what the Glazers do. Right, let's get into these player ratings then, people. Let's get into these player ratings. I mean, the lineup, by the way, from Lampard was a joke. I have to say, when I see that drop before kickoff, I wasn't the only one that thought that. It was a madness. Like, what was going on there? You're 2-0 down at home to Real Madrid. You got the second leg at home. Yeah, that's not a problem. Owners go in the dressing room. That's normal. That happens a lot more than you think it did. Roman used to go in the dressing room quite a lot as well. And it's absolutely owners' prerogative to go in the dressing room and find out why performances aren't to the level that's expected, why players aren't realizing their potential. Now, these guys have spent a lot of money on the club. They're here for a minimum of 10 years. They've got every right to go to the dressing room and demand to understand what's going on. I mean, if you think that's proof that and evidence that they're picking teams, then fine. But I mean, I totally disagree. What do you think about Vitor Roque? I don't know an awful lot about him. I know he plays for Atlético Paranaense in Brazil. He's meant to be very highly thought of. Again, he does want Barcelona. I think that's clear. But again, I don't know if Barcelona have got the finances to do it. It would be another young player that wouldn't be able to join until he's 18. We've obviously got Kendry Paez coming. We've got Andre Santos already signed. Yeah, look, I think it would be good for the future. But again, it's not a priority for me right now. I don't mind the owners in the dressing room since we have no real... Yeah, agreed on that. Massively agreed on that. I would play Mount over Gallagher yesterday. I perhaps would have done as well, but he obviously wasn't fit. You cannot compare what Nagelsmann's done in the German league with lesser teams and think he'll do the same. No, not at all. Not at all. Of course. No, of course, I don't think he's going to do the same. But he has got a record of improving players, and I think that's massively important. He's got a good experience of working in big dressing rooms. He's got a number of years coaching experience at the highest level. You also never heard from Roman in public either at all. He was very much an absent owner. Absolutely love him, not slating him. He's forever grateful for everything he's done for this football club. But he wasn't a hands-on owner for various reasons. Partly because he wasn't allowed in the country for most of the time that he was in charge. But yeah. Can you give me? I don't understand what that means. But if you can explain that again, that would be ideal. Guys, let's keep getting these likes up, people. We're on 21 likes now. Let's push this. Let's push this. Let's push this a bit higher, guys. I reckon we can hit that 30 likes, guys. Let's get to the 30 likes mark. No excuse not to get there, guys. Keep smashing the likes. But yeah, let's get back to these ratings then. Interesting. The system was. I couldn't believe it when the lineup came out. I really couldn't believe it. It was quite something when that lineup came out. What was that? What was that? Honestly, we're 2-0 down. We're at home for the second leg, and you've gone with a system that's got one attacker when we need a minimum of 2 goals. I just couldn't understand it at all. Now you're setting up to be compact and you're setting up to not concede. We're 2-0 down. If we concede a goal, we're out. 2-0 down. We're protecting what we've got. We're 2 down and we're out. And if we go and concede, we're out as well anyway. So I just think Lampard got the lineup totally wrong. What I would say is it worked a lot better than I expected in the first half, but it certainly wasn't kind of the situation that we should have been looking for. That's not a way to set up a side to try and overturn a 2-0 deficit by going with a 3-5-1-1. That just isn't. That's just not the way to go. It's really not. So, yeah, I don't know why he got on it. And then we had to rely massively on the fullbacks. And then time and time again, every time we got the ball, there was no one in the opposition half. It goes up to Havertz and there's no support to anyone, or you get the ball in and around the centre circle and there's no one else there. Tactically, it was a complete disaster. Yes, in the first half, we actually played some all right stuff and we had 2 really good chances and we should have scored at least once. But the reality of the situation, in my opinion, is you cannot go into a Champions League quarter-final second leg 2-0 down and play a system that looks like you're playing for a 0-0 draw with one attacker on the pitch. I just don't get it. I really didn't get that from Lampard at all. I don't get it. If we went to the Bernabeu with this system, I would still be slightly annoyed, but I would understand it a lot more because you're away from home, intimidating atmosphere, big ground, etc. You just want to try and give yourself the best chance, stay in a tie and all that. But to play us at home when you're basically out the tie anyway, I just didn't get it at all. And I really don't think it worked well enough. I really don't. But let's get into the ratings, people. Remember to get involved in the chat, guys, with your player ratings and let me know. Let me know your thoughts. This is I agree on that. I was completely baffled. Yeah. I'll be honest. I think 2025, when the Premier League goes to getting 5 spots in the Champions League, then I think that's when we'll next qualify because I think we are capable of getting in the top 5. Right, let's start with Kepa in goal then. Made a few half decent saves if we're being honest, but again, I thought Frank got one thing right: press and win the ball back. We couldn't do anything. Agreed, absolutely agreed. I felt as if only Kante shouldn't have been in the cam position where he played while attacking. If there was a Mount there, he would. I wouldn't say for sure. And people saying, why didn't we? If only we had someone else in those on the end of those chances, like Kante and Cucurella. Have you seen our finishing this season? I wouldn't have had faith in any one of our players to put that ball in the back of the net. Yes, some might have a higher chance than others, but I would have had zero faith in any of them putting the ball in the back of the net because they just don't have the ability to do so at the moment. So, yeah, it's easy to say, should have fallen to someone else. But do we really have any faith in anyone else putting a ball in the back of the net? Absolutely not. But yeah, starting with Kepa in goal, I just saw average, if we're being totally honest. Made a few half-decent saves. There wasn't an awful lot he could do about the goals. We just got ripped apart. Some of his distribution was poor, some risky playing out from the back, some slot. Yeah, I just think an average night for him. Not awful, but didn't exactly do an awful lot to impress. Moving on to the back three, then let's start with Fofana. I thought he had a decent game. I thought he got forward well. He supported Reece James well. He gets forward well, some good runs. But you know, again, a difficult evening for him. Yeah, both goals weren't his fault. That's for sure. The both goals are essentially, well, the first goal is definitely the fault of Chalobah. Second goal, I actually can't remember now. I kind of erased that from my mind. I think Fofana probably, I'd give him a 5.5. Maybe a 6, actually. I think a 6 is fair for him. I think he did pretty well. I don't think he was quite as good as Silva, but I think Fofana did well. And he's the massive positive from the summer recruitment is Fofana. Absolutely. I think a 6 for me. Thiago Silva, I mean, what did he say about this guy? I thought he was class personified again. I mean, again, not much more that he could do about either of the goals. But again, he steps up when required. He didn't really put a foot wrong. He played really well. He leads by example. I'd probably give him, it's either a 6.5 or a 7 for Fofana. I just can't decide which one it is at the moment. I'd probably say, guys, 6.5 or a 7. What are we saying? What are we saying, people? 6.5 or 7 for him. I'd say I'm going to go 6.5. I think he was a smidgen better than Fofana. Let's move on to Chalobah now. Back in the lineup. Obviously, you know, I don't think anyone had any issues with him starting at all in the back three. He had to if we were going to go with the 3 because there were no real other options other than Aspie, and I don't think you can really consider that an option. So yeah, I just think he had a disaster, Trev. I mean, hot-headedness at the moment where you absolutely don't need it. No idea why he just suddenly came steaming out and committed himself to ground like that. Absolutely no need to be doing that. I don't get why he did that. And then from that moment on, he was so shaky. It was almost at fault for a potential another goal where he kind of put Mudryk in the shit and Mudryk had to deal with it, and he dealt with it reasonably well. Silva will be captain for the rest of the club for the rest of the season because if he plays, he's going to be the captain. Yeah, I honestly think Chalobah was poor last night. Those mistakes, you cannot make mistakes like that. I think I'll give him a 3. I mean, he had a fairly solid game up until that point, but once he made that mistake, then he really wasn't that great. Let's move on to Reece James then, people. Let's move on to Reece James. I actually thought one of his better games for Chelsea in a while. Certainly in a 20-minute spell in that first half, he was really good. There was an occasion where he got forward and made some great runs, and then he suddenly looked really knackered. And I did see something on Twitter that said, you know, he went to the sidelines and he kind of had to take some tablets or something, and then he wasn't really the same. I don't think James is fully fit. I think that's clear. I do really think that's clear that he's not fully fit for whatever reason. To be honest, if it was me now, I'd just be like, look, send James for the surgery on the hamstrings. Whatever the issue is, just send him for the surgery. Just make sure you're fit for pre-season because, yeah, he's not fully fit. You can see he's not playing to his full capabilities. Something's holding him back and something's not quite right. But I thought he was decent last night. And I would say I would give him a 7. I thought along with Silva, they are probably our best 2 players on the pitch. Let's move to Cucurella on the other side then. Again, I don't think his best game. He wasn't terrible. Yes, he gave the ball away a few times. Yes, you know, he doesn't play enough forward passes. He had that massive opportunity when the ball fell to him. He did his best, but it wasn't good enough. You've got in that position, you've got to be taking those chances. You really do. And that could have been a totally different game. I would say for Cucurella, I'd probably go 4.5 just because he didn't make any massive mistakes. So that's why I'd give him just a touch more than Trev because he didn't make any ridiculous errors. let's go with Enzo next. Obviously, he got subbed off. I actually thought Enzo was a little bit subdued last night. I didn't think it was his best game for the club at all. I think he found it hard to get involved in the game. I also feel that he gave the ball away quite a lot. He definitely wasn't at his best, Enzo. It wasn't a massive game for him. And it's a shame because it's a massive occasion. You know, it's kind of the occasions you signed him for, but he's still only 22 years of age. And I think, you know, there's so much potential there. We've seen how good he is. He's been absolutely superb for us since he signed. But last night was a difficult game for him. It wasn't his best. He struggled to get into it. So yeah, I would probably be giving him. I don't really know what I'd be giving him. I'll probably be giving Enzo a 5. I think I would give Enzo an average 5 yesterday. No, sad, not crazy, bro. A lot of people were saying that if Marcos Alonso was in that position, that's a goal, because we know that he's clutch in the opposition box, and he will probably stick that away. So yeah, I totally agree. On that one. Mate, are you referring to Cucurella as our biggest goal threat, or do you mean Enzo? I presume you mean Cucurella. Let's move on to Kante then. I thought Kante was decent yesterday. Again, had a massive chance. You know, for as good as Kante is, finishing's not his forte. It's not his strong point. So it was a big ask for him to put that ball in the back of the net for that position. But you've got to do better. You've got to at least force the keeper to make a save and get the shot on target. But I felt overall Kante was decent. He just did what Kante does: nice runs, breaking up play, good passing. I would probably put him as I think I put him as a 6. I think that's pretty fair. I would put him as a 6, and then Kovacic. I don't know. I think he was a touch better than Enzo. I think he's a touch better than Enzo. I don't think he was better than Kante, and I don't think he had a particularly good game. I think that 3 complement each other quite well. 3 kind of different profiles in that midfield. Again, I thought Kova was quite poor, though. I wouldn't say the worst on the pitch by any means, absolutely not. But I just look at him and I think, if Enzo's a 5, Kova was worse than Enzo. He was. For me, I think Kova's on a 4.5. I really do, which makes me think that that Cucurella probably needs to go to a 4, not a 4.5. I just think Kovacic really struggled, if I'm being honest. Just didn't seem to offer much. Like, he doesn't contribute in the way of goals or assists, really. I agree that Kovacic has run his course. He'll have a year left on his contract in the summer. There's no indications or talks for a new one as of yet. I think we cut our losses and we sell him. We get what we can, and we continue to rebuild that midfield. Simple as that. By the way, people, keep smashing the likes on the stream. We're almost at 30 likes now, guys. Almost at 30 likes. So let's get that up to 30 before we round these player ratings out. 5 more likes to go, people. Keep smashing those likes and keep subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Would massively appreciate it, guys. Let's move on to Conor Gallagher. A surprise inclusion in the lineup, perhaps. You know what you're going to get with Gallagher: energy, pressing. He'll put a shift in. He got in some good positions. He did pick out some good passes. The quality is just not there with Gallagher yet, and it may never be there for him in a Chelsea shirt. It's just not quite. He just isn't there yet. He wasn't terrible. Yes, big up, Dead in the Water. Nice one, bro. I really appreciate you tuning in as always, my guy. Tricky. I think is how I describe it. You know, some good moments here and there. He tries hard. His pressing's immense, but you know, we need more than that. And there just wasn't really too much there from him. I mean, I'd probably put him around the same as Enzo. I think I just give him a 5. It's not his. I don't think he did anything wrong, but he just didn't really do anything that was that great either. I just think he was average. And then we'll move on to Kai Havertz. I think in fairness to Havertz, I think a difficult job for him, essentially up there on his own, no real support from anyone. So yeah, difficult. I can't really think of anything that he did, in all honesty. I really can't think of much that he did, which indicates a bit of a problem in itself, guys, that he didn't really do too much. I'd probably just give him a 4. There just really wasn't anything there. I really don't think Havertz did that well. I don't think he did do that well. I mean, maybe it looks different on the TV. I mean, it's like you might have been at the game. I don't know. But I don't know. I just don't think Havertz was that great. I really don't. I'd probably be looking at giving him a 4.5 or at tops of 5. There was just no end product. I'm going to go 4.5. I know that might sound pretty harsh, but I'm giving him a 4.5. I just don't think he was that good. Yes, he was isolated. Nah, come on. I just excuse me. I just don't think even Lewis wasn't hating on him. No, I'm not hating on him. I just don't think. I admitted it was a difficult role for him to play. It really was. But no, I'm not hating on him. I'm not hating on him at all. Yeah, 4.5. Maybe that is a bit harsh. Maybe that's a bit harsh. Let's give him a 5. You know, there wasn't an awful lot he could do. He tried his best. But yeah, there was a complete lack of service as well. Let's give him a 5 then. I think that's fair. Yeah, not the best set of ratings really. If we're being totally honest, I think too many people were just average, just kind of going through the motions. There wasn't good enough. I mean, you just look at that lineup, you just look at that system, you just think, how are you ever going to overturn a 2-goal deficit or get goals playing a system so defensive like that? I just think I'm not saying we would have won going with a 3-4-3 or whatever it was, but it would have given us a better chance. And in these situations, you just got to go for it. You know, if you concede, you're out as it is. If you concede, you're still out. So it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, I like Madrid's cameo as well. He should have started this game. It's not helpful when you've got a young player. 1 week he plays, the next week he's not in a starting lineup. In, out, fucking shake it all about business. Like, 1 minute he's playing, 1 minute he's not. Like, come on. You need some consistency with young players. They need time on the pitch. He needs to be involved. He needs to run a games from the off where he's starting. It's as simple as that. He has to start against Brentford next week. He really does. But yeah, guys, unless there's any breaking news or any news to update or speak about, let me just have a quick scroll through Twitter. I think this is going to be a good place to round this one out. I don't think there's too much more Chelsea news to discuss. I'm sure there'll be some more stuff coming soon. But yeah, let's see what happens, guys. Hopefully some more news of the managerial stuff coming in due course. And then obviously a few more bits and pieces as we get closer to the Brentford game. Let's be real. This tie was over when we appointed Lampard. It was over anyway. Let's be real. It was over anyway. Yeah, footballing IQ, certainly from a managerial perspective. I just want to win a game this season. Oh, mate, tell me about it. I've had enough travelling up and down the country every week watching us lose. Just one win. Just one win's all I ask for. Maybe even a goal as well. If we can have a goal, that would be great. Yes, big up Pesdol. Yeah, 100% agree on that. But yeah, guys, looks like a good place to round this one out. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. Massively appreciate each and every one of you in the chat. Massively helps me out when I'm doing it on my own. So big up yourselves. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure on the way out you smash the like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get this one to 30 likes on the way out, people. 3 more likes, guys. Let's get it going. Thank you so much for tuning in. Massively appreciate it, people. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'm on the road to 3,000 subscribers. Want to get there by the end of the season at the latest. So please do subscribe if you're not subscribed now. And I'll be back again soon, definitely with Brentford preview stuff, but I'll be back before then with some Chelsea related stuff, whether it's a tier list, whether it's something fun. I'll get something planned, guys. But yeah, big up yourselves, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Champions League is over and out for Chelsea till at least 2025, in my opinion. Season's done. Let's see what happens. Just so we can win a couple of games between now and the end of the season, that would be great. But yeah, take care, guys. Big up yourselves and up the Chelsea.